The electoral system is a benefit to the political process. It ensures the peaceful transition of power by providing a mandate from the people for a candidate to lead. The Electoral College is a workable solution, but by no means a perfect solution. Winner-take-all systems are partly to blame for problems such as low voter turnout, underrepresentation of women and minorities, and gerrymandering. Problems with pork barrel politics and political polarization can also be traced to the winner-take-all system. This according to DJ Amy, 1993, Real Choices, New Voices. The Electoral College alienates minorities, women, and the poor. Furthermore, it was designed to do this. There was no malfeasance in the creation of the Electoral College. It was thought to be the best compromise to ensure the survival of a fledgling government. America was not the America of today. The majority of the country was isolated throughout a wilderness. There was no means of transportation, no ready means of communication. A candidate in New York would not be known in Virginia, and he would have no way of campaigning in Virginia. This would be true of any region of America in this time. In addition, you could not even ask for the press of that time to inform people. The majority of Americans were illiterate. The majority of white males in this country were uneducated, illiterate, and worked from sunup till sundown, leaving no free time to read the latest political diatribes. Now, by contrast, women in this time, at least white women, were viewed as second-class citizens. Their opinion was not going to be factored into the discussion for the presidency. Any minorities, quite frankly, were not going to be seen as intelligent enough to effectively discuss and intellectually decide who should best represent our nation in its highest office. This striation of our population directly resulted in many in Congress deciding that, quite frankly, we could not leave this up to the general population. We could not leave it up to mob rule, which is what they would have seen it as. Too much had been sacrificed. Too much was at stake in this country to use a popular vote to elect a president. But to elect a president in Congress has fundamental flaws as well. For one thing, that president is then beholden to Congress for his power, his political power. It will never be a separate house, never be a separate branch of the government. The founders wanted a compromise between congressional selection for the president and the popular vote. For this reason, the Committee of 11 was formed, and their proposal was accepted with very little conflict. This was at the end of the Congressional Convention of 1787. It was a built-in incentive in the states to discourage participation, so as to enable a minority of the citizens to decide the electoral vote for the whole state. This according to William Kimberling, 1992. Delegates wanted independence from the legislature in the new office of president. For this reason, a greater separation of power needed to be found, and the solution to that was the Electoral College. They considered political parties corrupt. They viewed the parliament and the political parties that controlled that parliament as corrupt and inept. The electoral system is a direct result of their anticipation that there would not be political parties, that people would not campaign for office. The founders anticipated that the Electoral College would work as follows. Unlike Congress, the college would be an ad hoc and dispersed body, constituted by different members every 4 years. It would never convene collectively. Rather, state delegations would meet with their state, deliberate amongst themselves, and vote as individual electors. Because the parties did not exist at that time, electors could not simply choose among the leaders of a few parties. Founders assumed that electors would exercise an independent judgment. Founders expected multiple candidates would be nominated, none receiving a majority of the electoral votes required for election as the president, which would then activate the House contingency process. With no majority, the legislative body, the House of Representatives, would then determine who the president would be. This system would reconcile differing state and federal interests. It would provide a degree of popular participation in the election, give the less populous states some additional leverage in the process, preserve the presidency as an independent of Congress for election and re-election, and generally insulate the election process from political manipulation. Anyone that understands the election system now understands that that is not, in fact, how we elect a president. Congress does not elect the presidents. The contingency process has, in fact, only been used once in our elective history. This has created a society where people feel marginalized depending on the state they live in. Often minorities simply do not vote. Women do not vote. The reason for this is marginalization of their political views. They do not elect to participate in the process. This is a direct result of the winner-take-all system that has been in place since the time of political parties in our country. While Congress created this system with the intention that there would never be a political party system, they rose quite quickly. By the election of 1796, political parties were the means by which states elected their delegates. One workaround solution to the problem of a constitutional amendment has been proposed in the national popular vote movement. At the state level, those states willing to sign into law their commitment will assign their delegates to the winner of the national popular election, regardless of which candidate wins the state election. With California's passage of legislation, 132 of the 270 electoral votes to circumvent the electoral college system are in place. This will not take effect until enough states sign on and pass the legislation needed to equal that 270 vote majority. This is according to Matt Loeb, 2011.
Battleground and flyover states. A battleground state is a state where the vote for candidates is undecided. It could go either way. A flyover state is a state that is predetermined for a particular candidate. Unless you live in one of these few battleground states, your particular vote doesn't matter. The presidential candidates don't need to consider your issues as they fly over your state on the way to the few states that swing presidential elections. In 2008, candidates concentrated 98% of their ad money and visits to just 15 states. Again, not very democratic. To create a truly national presidential election, the National Popular Vote Bill is winning support all across the country. The bill is winning so much support because in a democracy, the winner should win, not the candidate that can game the system to get the most electoral votes. In summary, we have the option to guarantee that the choice of the American people wins the election. Every American's vote should count. Candidates will pay attention to the needs and concerns of all 50 states, not just a few battleground states.
As an American citizen, born in Los Angeles, California, and raised in El Paso, Texas, I have never mattered in the election of a president. I've only lived in flyover states. I want my vote and my opinions to matter. If you do too, then take the time to go to nationalpopularvote.com and inform yourself. Then contact your state representative listed on the website, because only you can make yourself matter.